In the dead of night, when livestock stand silent in the fields and the moonlight paints their backs in silver, a shadow flits across the sky. Its wings are small, its body fragile, no larger than a clenched fist. And yet, inside this delicate creature lies one of nature's most unsettling instincts. It does not roar, it does not strike, it does not kill. Instead, it lands gently, like a whisper of wind. With razor-thin teeth, it makes a cut so light the victim does not stir. A chemical, an anticoagulant, seeps into the wound, keeping the blood flowing freely. Then, with a tongue perfectly shaped for the task, the bat begins to lap at the warm liquid of life. The prey never screams, never notices. By the time the bat takes flight again, it leaves behind no more than a trickle, and the eerie knowledge that something has fed from the living, unseen, unheard. This is no myth, no gothic tale. These are the true vampires of the night, the blood-drinking bats of the Americas. For centuries, tales of blood-drinking monsters have haunted the night. From the Gothic castles of Europe to the jungles of South America, stories of vampires have thrived in human imagination. But what if, beneath the layers of myth, there was truth? What if the idea of a winged creature that feeds on blood did not come from fantasy at all, but from the very real instincts of an animal that still hunts in the darkness today? The vampire bat is no legend. It is small, no larger than a man's hand, with a face wrinkled and almost human in its expressions. Its wings fold like a cloak around its body. Its eyes glimmer faintly in the dark, and its teeth, sharp, precise, are not built for fruit or insects. They are built for piercing skin. There are 3 known species of these bats: the common vampire bat, Desmodus rotundus, the hairy-legged vampire bat, Diphila acaudata, and the white-winged vampire bat, Diemys youngi. Together, they are the only mammals on Earth that survive solely on blood. Unlike predators that kill their prey in violent bursts, vampire bats thrive in silence. Their victims, cattle, horses, pigs, birds, never hear them coming. A gentle flutter of wings, a landing as light as a moth, and the hunt begins. They do not slash recklessly. Instead, they use heat sensors on their nose, tiny pits that can detect the warmth of blood vessels beneath the skin. With uncanny precision, they choose the spot where the flow is strongest. Then, with a bite so shallow and delicate it is almost surgical, they open a wound less than a centimeter across. But the genius of the vampire bat lies not in its bite, but in its saliva. Within that liquid is a biochemical masterpiece, an anticoagulant called Draculin. It prevents the victim's blood from clotting, turning what should be a few drops into a steady trickle. The bat then lowers its tongue, a thin grooved organ designed for lapping, and drinks. For 20 minutes, sometimes longer, the bat feeds in silence. It takes no more than a tablespoon of blood. The victim rarely stirs, and even if it does, the pain is so slight that it returns to sleep. The bat departs unseen, leaving behind only a small mark, a sign easily missed by the morning sun. And so, in the dark fields of Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and beyond, the legend of the vampire remains alive, not in castles, not in folklore, but in the quiet instincts of a creature that has perfected the art of drinking life without ever taking it. The night is silent, but for the faint rustle of grass in the wind. Cows huddle together in a field, their massive bodies unmoving, their breath fogging the cool air. They are giants in this landscape, vast, powerful, seemingly untouchable. And yet from above, another creature has marked them as prey. A shadow glides low, its wings spanning barely the width of a dinner plate. To the human eye, it would be invisible, no more than a ripple of air against the stars. But to the cow, it is nothing at all. The animal does not see. It does not hear. The hunter is silent. The bat lands softly on the ground, far from its target. Unlike predators that attack with force, the vampire bat approaches on foot. It scurries forward with surprising agility, moving almost like a small four-legged animal rather than a winged one. Its long thumbs grip the earth. Its hind legs push it forward, and its body creeps closer to the cow's hoof. The cow shifts, tail flicking at flies. The bat freezes, pressing itself low against the soil, its heart racing but its movements precise. Then, inch by inch, it climbs. With patience born of countless hunts, it makes its way to the soft, hairless skin near the cow's ankle. Here, the bat's weapon awakens. Its nose, short and blunt, carries heat-sensing pits that glow faintly with the warmth of blood beneath skin. It can see the cow's veins as clearly as a hunter sees tracks in snow. With surgical focus, it chooses its mark. A quick nip. The skin breaks. The cow does not flinch. The bite is shallow, less painful than a thorn prick. Within seconds, the bat's saliva floods the wound. The chemical Draculan works instantly. Clotting stops. Blood begins to flow freely. The bat lowers its tongue. Unlike most mammals, its tongue is grooved, built not for sucking, but for lapping. Each motion draws blood into its mouth in steady, rhythmic strokes. Warmth spreads across its body as the liquid fills its gut, nourishing it in a way no fruit or insect ever could. Minutes pass. The cow remains oblivious, perhaps shifting once or twice, but never aware that life is being taken drop by drop. For the bat, this is survival perfected, not in violence, but in subtlety. It feeds like a thief, leaving its victim alive, ensuring tomorrow there will be blood again. When it is done, the bat withdraws. It licks its lips, cleaning every trace. Its belly is heavy, its wings lighter than air. With a soft leap, it takes flight once more, vanishing into the night from which it came. By dawn, the cow will stir, its ankle marked only by a tiny wound. But within that mark lies a story older than myths, a story of a predator so quiet, so efficient, that its existence feels almost supernatural. This is not fantasy. This is the vampire bat's hunt, played out every night across the grasslands of Central and South America. The vampire bat's bite is not its most dangerous weapon. The true power lies in what follows: the saliva that seeps into the wound. Inside that liquid is a biochemical marvel, a substance that scientists named Draculan, after the vampire count who haunted European legends. Unlike the fictional Dracula, this Draculan is real, and it is far more precise than any myth. Its purpose is simple: to keep blood flowing. In most animals, the moment skin is pierced, the body rushes to repair itself. Platelets swarm to the wound, clots form, and bleeding stops. For a predator that survives on blood, this is a problem. But for the vampire bat, it is no obstacle at all. Draculan halts the clotting cascade. It binds to platelets and prevents them from working. The result? The wound stays open, the blood flows freely, and the bat can lap without pause for 20 minutes or more. To the cow or horse or pig, the wound is so minor it barely registers. They do not thrash or panic. They often never notice, but the bat leaves behind more than just an open wound. Its saliva carries microbes, viruses, and bacteria, gifts that can spread sickness through the herd. Rabies, one of the deadliest diseases known to man, often moves this way, from the mouth of a bat, through a shallow cut, into the bloodstream of its victim. And yet, within the horror, there is wonder. For scientists, Draculan is more than a tool of predation. It is a key to medicine. Researchers have studied it as a potential treatment for strokes and heart attacks, conditions where clots in human arteries block the flow of blood. If a substance can safely keep blood liquid, it could save lives in hospitals just as it takes them in the field. So here lies the paradox of the vampire bat. It terrifies farmers, spreads fear in villages, and sometimes brings disease. But at the same time, it carries inside it a chemical that could one day save countless human lives. From death, possibility; from a predator, a cure. The hunt may be solitary, but survival is never alone. By dawn, after a night of silent feeding, the vampire bat returns to its roost. Hidden inside hollow trees, caves, or the rafters of old barns, hundreds of them hang upside down in the dark. The colony is alive with whispers. high-pitched clicks, and chirps that humans can barely hear. Here, a strange ritual unfolds. Not every bat has fed. Some return with bellies heavy with warm blood, while others come back empty, their hunts a failure. For most predators, failure means death, but in the world of vampire bats, something remarkable happens. They share. One bat approaches another, pressing its mouth to the other's lips. It is not aggression, it is not grooming, it is a gift. The fed bat regurgitates a portion of its blood meal, letting the hungry one drink. Drop by drop, the colony redistributes its wealth. This is not random charity. Vampire bats remember who has helped them in the past. They build relationships, networks of trust. A bat that shares today may receive tomorrow. A bat that refuses, that hoards its meal, may find itself abandoned when hunger comes for it. In this way, the colony is a web of reciprocity, a society built on blood. It is one of the few examples in nature where survival depends not only on the individual's success, but on the willingness to give, even when giving means parting with precious life. Scientists have called this behavior reciprocal altruism. Farmers call it infestation. But to the bats, it is instinct, written into their biology as deeply as their hunger for blood. And so, while legends paint vampires as lonely, cursed figures haunting castles in isolation, the truth is stranger. Real vampire bats live in communities bound tighter than many human families. They survive not by taking alone, but by sharing. Each dawn, as they huddle together in the shadows, the colony becomes a living reservoir, every drop of blood passing from mouth to mouth, ensuring that none are left to starve. It is grotesque, it is intimate, and it is one of the most extraordinary examples of cooperation in the natural world. For centuries, people across Europe told tales of vampires, undead monsters that crept from their graves at night to drink the blood of the living. These legends were whispered long before anyone in Europe had seen a real vampire bat. But when explorers crossed the Atlantic and ventured into the forests and grasslands of the New World, they found something that seemed to give flesh to the myth. In villages across Central and South America, farmers awoke to unsettling signs. Cattle stood restless, their legs streaked with blood from tiny wounds. Horses shivered in their stalls, refusing food. Sometimes children, too, would wake screaming in the night, a trickle of red down their ankles or toes. The marks were small, barely scratches, but the fear they stirred was immense. Stories spread of winged demons that fed under cover of darkness, of creatures so silent they could drink from your veins without waking you. To a frightened farmer, the explanation was obvious: vampires. But these were not spirits, not cursed nobles returned from the dead. They were living animals, bats, no larger than a sparrow, yet armed with the tools of a perfect thief. The fear was not unfounded. Though the blood loss itself was rarely dangerous, the real threat came with disease. Rabies, carried in the saliva of vampire bats, spread silently across herds and into villages. A single infected bite could mean death within weeks. In this way, the bats earned a reputation not only as pests, but as harbingers of madness and doom. Spanish chroniclers of the 16th century wrote of these bats with dread and fascination, describing how they crept upon sleeping men, horses, and cattle. In the cold torchlight of the colony towns, the old legends of Europe fused with the reality of the Americas. The bat became the embodiment of the vampire myth, a living creature that confirmed every nightmare. But while fear spread among humans, the bats themselves remained indifferent. They hunted as they always had, guided by heat and hunger, their instincts unchanged. To them, cattle were no different from deer, and humans were simply another source of warmth and blood. And yet, in the flickering minds of those who lived with them, they became symbols of darkness. The vampire bat was no longer just an animal. It was proof that monsters were real. When Bram Stoker published Dracula in 1897, Europe was already haunted by centuries of vampire folklore, pale figures rising from graves, cursed souls drinking the blood of the living. Yet, what gave those legends a sharper edge was the strange little bat from the Americas. The discovery of a real animal that lived exactly as the myths described, feeding on blood under the cloak of night, transformed rumor into reality. Artists and writers seized the image. The vampire bat, with its leathery wings and crimson hunger, became the living emblem of Stoker's Count. On stage, plays, movie posters, and pulp magazines, bats swirled around Gothic castles, linking the predator of cattle pastures in Mexico with the nightmares of Transylvania. But the symbolism went deeper. In the bat's quiet feeding, people saw reflections of their own fears. The fear of being drained, of losing life without knowing it, of waking to find something intimate and hidden, stolen in the night. Unlike wolves or lions, which killed with violence, the vampire bat killed with silence, with subtlety. It embodied a different kind of terror, not the terror of attack, but the terror of invasion. In villages, crosses were hung to ward off both demons and bats. In literature, the bat became the winged servant of the vampire lord. In cinema, from Nosferatu to Dracula, the bat was always close by, proof that the line between beast and legend had blurred. And yet, not all symbolism was dark. Some cultures viewed the bat differently. In parts of Mesoamerica, bats were seen as liminal beings, creatures of both life and death, blood and spirit. They were not simply monsters, but messengers, guardians of thresholds between worlds. The vampire bat, then, was not only a source of fear, but of awe, a reminder that nature can shape myth, and myth can reshape how we see nature. Today, when we think of vampires, it is impossible not to think of bats. They are etched into Halloween masks, comic books, and horror films, their wings a universal shorthand for the supernatural. Yet behind the symbol remains the animal itself, tiny, fragile, and very real, still slipping silently onto the backs of sleeping cattle, still living the legend we wrote for it. Legends made them monsters, but science revealed something more astonishing. An animal so specialized, so perfectly engineered for its role, that it borders on the impossible. The vampire bat's mouth is small, but its teeth are weapons of precision. Unlike the fangs of other predators, its incisors are razor-thin blades, honed not to tear, but to slice. They are self-sharpening, their edges so fine they can cut skin with the delicacy of a surgeon's scalpel. A single nip, no deeper than the scratch of a thorn, is all it takes. But how does the bat find its target? For that, it carries a tool far stranger than fangs, a biological heat sensor. In the bat's nose lie specialized pits, tuned to infrared radiation. Through them, the bat sees the world in warmth. Veins glow like rivers beneath the skin. Arteries pulse like beacons. Even in total darkness, the bat can locate the perfect spot to pierce. Once landed, the bat does something few other bats can. It walks. On the ground, it scurries with surprising speed, using long thumbs and agile legs to creep toward its prey. Unlike clumsy fruit bats, the vampire bat moves like a small rodent, darting, climbing, positioning itself with precision. And when it feeds, it does not suck blood as myths suggest. Instead, its tongue is equipped with microscopic grooves, forming a natural straw. The grooves guide liquid up in steady streams as the bat laps, each stroke drawing blood with astonishing efficiency. But the most remarkable survival trick comes not from feeding, but from community. Vampire bats cannot go more than 48 hours without blood. A single failed hunt could mean death. Yet, as scientists discovered, they rarely starve, because they rely on each other. Bats that fed the night before regurgitate blood for those that failed. Over time, trust networks form. A selfish bat might survive once, but it will starve in the long run. Only those who give are given to. It is survival by generosity, an idea almost unthinkable in the ruthless arena of predators. And yet, for vampire bats, it works. Their colonies endure because of it. So what we see in the vampire bat is not just horror, it is innovation. Evolution's experiment in patience, precision, and cooperation. A creature that, in its tiny body, carries both terror and ingenuity. For farmers across Latin America, vampire bats are more than curiosities of the night. They are pests. Each year, their bites spread diseases among cattle and horses, costing rural economies millions. Rabies outbreaks fueled by vampire bats still devastate herds, and occasionally human communities as well. In some villages, the name murciélago is spoken with dread, followed by stories of sickness and death. In response, humans have fought back with brutal efficiency. Colonies have been burned, caves smoked, and poisons spread across roosts, thousands of bats killed in the hope of stopping the spread. Yet still, they return. For every colony destroyed, others persist, hidden in barns, trees, and cliffs. But even here, in this battle between predator and prey, there are contradictions. Researchers who study vampire bats warn that mass exterminations may do more harm than good. Disturbing colonies can scatter infected individuals across wider regions, increasing the risk of rabies instead of lowering it. And then there is the scientific paradox. The very creature feared for spreading death may hold keys to saving lives. Dracula, the anticoagulant in vampire saliva, is being studied as a possible treatment for human strokes, where blood clots choke the brain. In laboratories, the same molecule that allows a bat to drink unnoticed may one day prevent paralysis or death in humans. So, do we destroy them or protect them? The answer is not simple. The vampire bat is not endangered. It thrives wherever livestock is plentiful, but its survival depends on a fragile balance. If fear drives only extermination, we lose not just a pest, but a species with extraordinary biology, one that might hold cures we do not yet understand. To some, it will always be a monster, the thing that slips into barns at night and leaves blood behind. To others, it is a marvel, an animal that rewrites what survival can look like, an evolutionary genius in miniature. And so humanity stands at the threshold, as it so often does, torn between fear and wonder, between destruction and discovery. In the end, the vampire bat is neither monster nor myth. It is an animal, small, fragile, no heavier than a handful of coins. Yet inside it lies one of the most unsettling truths of nature. Survival does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. When we think of predators, we imagine claws, fangs, violence written in blood, and screams. But the vampire bat hunts with silence, with patience, with precision so gentle its victims rarely know. It survives not by force, but by subtle theft. A reminder that not all dangers are loud, and not all battles are visible. Legends turned it into Dracula's servant, a symbol of darkness and terror. But the truth is stranger. In its saliva flows a molecule that could one day save human lives. In its colonies thrive networks of trust and generosity more sophisticated than many human societies. In its hunger lies not only horror, but also ingenuity. The vampire bat shows us that life wears many faces, sometimes grotesque, sometimes miraculous, often both at once. It teaches that even the smallest creature can shape legends, that fear can give birth to stories, and that the monsters we imagine are often reflections of our own anxieties. So, when you walk under the stars at night and hear the faint flutter of wings, remember this. Not all vampires are born from graves and shadows. Some are real, living among us, their survival written in drops of blood, their story woven into ours. And perhaps, just perhaps, the question is not whether they are monsters, but whether we are ready to see them for what they truly are, survivors of the night, guardians of a truth both terrifying and profound. If this story made you shiver, if the thought of a creature that feeds in silence, that slips into the night and leaves only a drop of blood behind, stirred something in you, then remember, this is not legend. It is life. Right now, even as you watch, vampire bats are gliding over fields, creeping across the earth, and sharing their meals in hidden colonies. But their story does not end with fear. It is also a story of survival, of unexpected generosity, of biology so strange it borders on the miraculous. And stories like these deserve to be remembered, not buried under myth and dread. So if you want more glimpses into nature's strangest instincts, creatures that blur the line between horror and wonder, predators that teach us about patience, cooperation, and survival, then don't look away. Like this video, share it with those who dare to look closer, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next tale from the hidden corners of the natural world. Because in the shadows of night, in the silence of fields, and in the depths of forests, there are more bizarre instincts waiting, and together we can bring them into the light.